Before we get in the video, please like, make sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications, go ahead and leave a comment below, and click on the How You Can Help, which brings up the Family Friendly Game website and gives you lots of ideas how you can help us. Thank you. All right, so this is something that I have been thinking about, and I've written an article. It probably hasn't been published on our website yet, I don't think. It'll probably get published before this video becomes an FFG Chronicles on YouTube. But right now, since I'm streaming this on Twitch during the FFG Family Show, I figured I'd kind of give you all the facts, and so you'll know that when you see it on YouTube, if you're not currently watching this on Twitch. I'm trying to find the difference, the line, the differentiation, and I may wind up having a visitor or two in this video. I don't know. We'll find out in just a moment. The difference between criticism and bullying. There's been a lot of this discussion lately about cyberbullying, and at times I question: is it just criticism? I mean, it seems like we're getting to the point as a society that the evil, vile, and wicked political correctness police seem to be trying to have a war on criticism. Like, you can only say positive things. You can't say anything negative about someone. And that's not really realistic, because we're going to disagree on things. And not everyone's going to sit there and be like, oh, hey, you're wonderful. Why, you just stabbed me and shot me. You're so wonderful. No, I mean, there are bad things that happen. There are evil people that do horrible things. And we can't just, not criticize. And in fact, this is May 30th, 2020. There's all these protests going on over something bad that happened. Okay? Something bad happened. I'm not going to reference it because it would get us in trouble with YouTube, and you lose all monetization if you talk about certain current events. So I won't reference it exactly. But let's kind of touch bases on the fact that bad things happen. A lot of bad things have been happening during these protests. People are getting hurt. People are dying. This is bad things. You can't sit there and be like, good job, wonderful, you did such a great thing, hurting that other person. It's like, no, that's a bad thing. So it comes down to, where do you draw the line? And I guess part of the problem is, as I've discussed before, when we've had people who have decided they want to redefine words, redefine institutions, redefine morals and ethics, you're going to have two different lines in the sand, I guess we'll say. Because some people will think, oh, well, this is where the line in the sand is, and this is what's crossing the line, and this is what's horrible, and this is what's bad. And other people are going to have a completely different set of lines, morals, and ethics. For me, I guess you could say I'm lazy. I am very lazy, because I want to just stick with what God said in the Holy Bible. That's just the easiest way. You stick with God's lines. You don't have to sit there and worry about the shifting in the sand, the blowing in the wind, people changing. Because what was a mental illness in the 1970s, thanks to protest, all of a sudden got redefined. Well, you go, wait a minute, that's not right that they just decide to redefine it because they get threatened, and they're kind of, the people who are doing are kind of cowardly and have no backbone. So you go, wait a minute, that's not right. So it comes down to, and you sit there and say, I'm criticizing people, and some people might be like, well, that's bullying. I don't really understand how expressing an opinion is bullying. Now, I do think some people go too far in their criticism. At times, you have people who are trying to be funny, and maybe it makes a lot of sense to them, and they think it's hilarious, their comments, and other people are just greatly offended. I have also noticed that you have bullying back, or back bullying, however you want to put it. You have someone who criticizes, like, let's say there's a YouTuber, for just example, criticizing a professional wrestler, and you have all these people angry and mad at the person who made the criticism, and they get bullied by all these other people. Now I'm old school in a lot of things, and I always believe that two wrongs do not make a right. So if the people who are bullying the person who stepped across the line and went a little too far with their criticism, I think that all these other people who are doing all this bullying should be like, wait a minute, we're wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. We should sit there and tell them, I disagree with you on this. You could even give facts and evidence. Be like, here's why I don't think this professional wrestler is lazy, because of these things. And you can give examples. And you can be like, that you don't have to sit there and personally attack the person. But unfortunately, I go back to when I first started comprehending and paying attention to politics in Washington State in the Seattle-Tacoma area. And I noticed there was a certain group of politicians who would never discuss the issues. They would always attack the other person. It happened. And what really dismayed me about this in Washington State was the party who kept doing that kept winning. So, the message that's being sent is, if you attack the person and try to tear the person down, which really is what is now being called cyberbullying, what they have done as a political tactic for decades, they were actually bullying themselves. They were bullying the other people, and many times we found out later that it was lies. But they got elected, they got to stay in office. It's like there doesn't seem to be any kind of accountability for, the politicians using that evil, vile, and wicked tactic. Let's call it a bullying tactic to do that. So, and like I said, it's different to criticize someone. I'll give you an example. You could sit there and say someone, as a politician, you could say, they don't have any experience, I don't think they'll be good doing this job. That's a valid, legitimate criticism. If you sit there and say something like, they're wet behind the ears and they're a mama's boy, well, now you're insulting them. You're not physically, you're psychologically, emotionally attacking them, and you're painting a picture of someone who's not trustworthy, someone who's not legitimate, someone who's not proper. This you wouldn't, or they could sit there and completely lie and say, "Oh, this person's a molester." Well, unless you have evidence of that, and you're just going to make a wild accusation, I think they should be held liable for it. It'd be like, that's slander, and you're going to be held, legally liable for it. And if you get elected, in my opinion, people who do things like that should be, forced back out. Be like, no, you can't sit there and just attack the person. It's like I said, it's one thing to sit there and say they don't have experience, or maybe there's a lot of corruption surrounding this person. Those are legitimate examples that I don't think are bullying. Oh, we got a visitor.
A thing that would stop the wild accusations would be if those wild accusations held the same weight as the actual action. So, let's say you get 20 years in prison for molesting a child. Well, if you accuse someone and it's proven they didn't do it,
then you go to jail for 20 years.
You get to go for 20 years and get a sex offender charge.
They've actually done that in some places with rape. I heard about that. If someone cries rape and it's not true, the person making the false accusation actually does have to go to jail.
The problem is it's so hard to prove or disprove.
Yeah, a lot of these things are very difficult to prove or disprove, and it comes down to, you have people who want power, people who have power. You got people who, quite honestly, in this day and age, with so many different, you have all these different media outlets. You've got all these different, YouTube channels, Twitch streamers. You've got so many people who are like, look at me, hey, look at me. They're doing everything they possibly can.
So when?
Hey, Charlie O. They're doing everything they possibly can to get attention on themselves. So that's what happens with it. All right, so that's all I have on the criticism or bullying. That's